Good morning. I'm Mike Lavallee, Public Affairs Officer here at Embassy Kingston, and welcome to our Star Spangled Sit-Down. Today we have viewers from our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter channels joining us. Welcome. And also joining me here today is Yashika Graham. She's a very special guest, and she's a poet, essayist, artist, and many other things. Obviously a woman of many talents. So thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
And recently, you were also the Honorary Fellow in Writing for the University of Iowa International Writing Program. So welcome, and thank you for joining us. And I have a few questions I want to ask you.
Oh, fantastic, thank you.
So Yashika, my job, I have to do some writing, but I really don't consider myself a writer. Obviously, you're a writer, and you know what it's like and what it takes to be a writer. Tell us about what sparked your passion for writing and what drove you in this direction.
Wow, thank you for your question. I remember writing from when I was a little child. I don't remember what exactly sparked that desire to write, but I started out journaling. I wanted to write down what happened during the course of a day. I lived in Westmoreland, so I would write, we went to the spring today and we went to school. Very mundane things, but something about documenting the day was significant to me. And I remember writing my first poem after hearing a poem on the radio, and I think maybe the music of it and the rhythm of it made me curious about this sound, like what is this? And I wanted to try it. So that sparked my desire to write poetry, and I think it stuck. It stayed with me over the years, and I've continued to develop the craft over time.
Yes, poetry is a fascinating art.
It is.
Yeah, it's not everybody can do it, so that's amazing that you found a knack in it.
And it continues to be a learning experience as time goes by.
Last year you were participating in an International Writers Program. How did you feel when you found out about getting accepted for that program?
I was ecstatic. I almost could not believe it. Actually, even when I was in Iowa City, I had to keep pinching myself, wondering, is this really happening? Because it's an amazing program. It's an amazing opportunity to be immersed in a space that is dedicated to writing, but also to be taken out of the pressures of daily life and survival, and to be given facilities, space, and community to create. So I was over the moon. It was an amazing experience.
That's amazing. And what are the type of things that you write about?
What do I write about? I write about life. The collection I'm working on right now centers on the idea of home. So does home exist, and can one return home? If you think of home as a place that you belong to, is that somewhere you can return to? And what are some of the ideas, what are some of the feelings connected to that idea of home? So I write a lot about that and about familial relationships. So my mother comes up a lot in my writing. And just negotiating with what it means to exist in the world and to feel, to understand, and to process what the world is.
Those are really powerful themes and really interesting themes, I'm sure, to everybody.
Thank you.
How did that apply? You were part of the International Writing Program. Mm-hmm. How did that apply to where you went and what you did during that program?
Mm-hmm. So the idea of home, so the book is done to my understanding, right? And to be put in a space where you're away from home, for one, you're looking at this idea of belonging in a very different way. So I was able and made to tackle that idea of belonging. What does belonging mean? What does home truly mean? Because for a lot of us, being in Iowa City, although it wasn't home as we know it, the trees are not the same, the environment, the air is not the same, but there are ways in which Iowa felt like home in the conversations we had, in the kind of community around writing. And so there's a kind of revision that happened for me as well, to think about, okay, you had this idea about home before, but is that stable? Is that something that you're going to continue to hold on to? So I had to revise certain ideas around home and to look back at the collection I'm working on. So that I've had to reprocess certain things as I went through that process of being in Iowa.
Yeah, I've been to Iowa a few times, and it does give you that homey feel also in Iowa. It's a rural area where you can get a chance to meet the people, understand who they are, understand their heart.
Lots of corn.
Yes, there is, yes, definitely lots of corn, yes, and lots of beef too. But so obviously you spend a good amount of time in Iowa. Where else did you go, and what else did you do on this program?
So we were centered in Iowa, so most of the time we were there, but we also had trips to New York. We met with an agent there, literary agent, and we did other activities. We also went to Chicago. So there, in a big way, we saw like certain cultural centers, and we were able to see a bit more of the U.S. I was also part of a group that went to Pittsburgh, to the Pittsburgh International Literary Festival. So we were able to meet some other international writers in that space, and to be able to see more of the literary community that's present in the US. And I say more because Iowa has a very big presence in the literary community, and so we're kind of immersed already in Iowa. But then when we went to these different areas, to Chicago, to Pittsburgh, and to New York, we were able to see just a bit more. I was also invited to Illinois, to Augustana College, where I gave a talk, had a conversation with two professors around my collection, this idea of home, and certain of the themes that I work on, as well as Jamaican culture, because they have a program around Jamaican music there. And so I was able to have a conversation around that idea as well. The program itself in Iowa is rooted in, we do presentations, we have panel discussions, we give talks, we give readings, and so every day, every week rather, has these different layers to it. And so you're always engaging with your craft in some way or another. If you're not giving a panel discussion, you're probably sitting in listening to another fellow giving a talk in a panel discussion, or you have some free time to write. So or you can go to the library. So we had room to access the resources of the university and to just be immersed, and that made a big difference for me.
Wow, that's an amazing experience. You not only had the time to write and time to think, but you had such a diverse and culturally different experience, because you went from Iowa to New York to Pittsburgh to Chicago, and you can't get much different, between those type of geographic locations. And so I'm glad you got a chance to do that. What did you think? Seeing like the architecture in Chicago and New York, did that inspire you at all?
Oh, absolutely. I think I was blown away by Chicago. When I got to Chicago, I thought I had seen tall buildings before, and for some reason, I was just blown away by it. And we went on a ferry to do an architecture tour, and so I was able to see a bit more of that. And so a change in perspective, and which I think is a beautiful thing as a writer, to see differently and to see more, and just a kind of richness and an enrichment of what one knows and what one has seen before is what I think took place there.
No, that's wonderful. Broadening perspectives is important in any aspect of life. So, how did this experience shape you or change you as a writer?
Ooh, wow, how did it change me as a writer? I said this when we were leaving Iowa City, that I felt like I needed this experience, because I spoke to you earlier about that sense of feeling compressed in a space, and you can claim to be a writer, but sometimes you don't have enough time to write, because a lot of writers have to do other things. You have your job, your day-to-day job that you have to do to survive, right? But you need that time to focus, to decompress, to make sense of the world, and to actually write. And Iowa gave me the space and time to do that. And I think I needed the reminder that there was a life to be made from writing, and a reminder that writing is important. And why I do this is because I believe that stories are so very important. Like, it's really very significant to be able to tell a story, to be able to make sense of the world. And I think having those different perspectives matter. And I needed that reminder, and I also needed that very, very valuable space that I got in Iowa City to do that work.
Ah, that's wonderful. What was your most memorable experience from the whole exchange?
That is a lot. I don't know. Was there one thing? I think the fact of being in Iowa City and being able to sit, have a quiet moment and process mattered a great deal to me. It was also so powerful to connect with persons from across the world, to be able to hear them speak in their different languages and to have community with them, to share food, to see the world in a room, so to speak, and to receive the world in this new way. And another layer to that is that I was able to speak and form community with persons from the African diaspora. And I hadn't had that kind of close contact before. So now I am, as someone in the diaspora, connecting with persons from Cameroon, from Nigeria, from South Africa, and I think connecting to parts of myself that are unfamiliar still, and that I hope to become more familiar with. So that was a really powerful aspect of it as well.
Wow, that's all incredible. And I'm so glad that you were able to go on this exchange, have this experience, and then bring it back to Jamaica with you, and to build on your career here based off of what you gained off of this exchange. And we, as the U.S. Embassy, we're so happy and so proud to be able to provide these exchanges to Jamaican people.
And it matters a great deal. So I do want to say thank you for having this provision and for making this happen, because it's almost unbelievable that this is a thing.
And I just want to also say to our audience that if you are interested in participating in these type of exchanges, please make sure to follow our pages, and also to visit our website, jm.usembassy.gov, and watch for updates. We'll be posting some updates soon on the next opportunities, so if you're interested, please stay tuned. And then I also want to ask you, what's up next for you, Yashika?
What is up next? So of course, being in Iowa, being in this kind of environment, you think, yes, I need to, you get a running start, it feels like. Of course, I told you about my collection. It's due out this year. It's called Some of Us Can Go Back Home. And I am fine-tuning that, so that is coming up. I have also, since I got back to Jamaica, started a podcast. It's called the Aki Podcast.
I haven't tried Aki yet, but I'm going to.
You should. It's the national dish, Aki and saltfish.
It's like on my list. So.
I don't have it. It's the unpopular opinion. I don't have it with saltfish because I'm vegan. So I have it by itself with black pepper and seasoning and everything like that. But it's still nice. So yes, the Aki Podcast, and it's interviews with writers, and it features, the first season features a number of the writers who are in the International Writing Program. So what I'm doing in that project is to share the voices from around the world and how these different writers tackle writing, from the fiction writer to the essayist to the screenwriter. How are these persons from their different perspectives engaging with the process of writing? How are they telling their stories? What kinds of stories they're telling, and what can we learn from them? So it is my hope to travel the world and to interview persons, interview writers, and to get those tidbits and that core information so that other writers can learn from their respective journeys.
But that's just really incredible, and to travel the world, you have a good start here. I hope that can continue.
I hope so too.
But everything that you're involved in, obviously such a busy person, and keeping yourself very active, and exploring life as it may be as a poet, and here in Jamaica, and giving that gift back to Jamaica. So that's just such a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
My final question for you, there's a lot of budding writers out there that, thinking, how can I do this? How can I get into writing? I have some talent, but I don't know how to get established and to get something published. What advice would you give to a person who wants to go into a career as a writer?
Mm-hmm. Wow, what advice would I give? I think a very useful advice I've gotten over the years is that you have to write. So to be a writer, you have to actually do the writing, and that can be a layered experience. It can be very challenging, but I find that it is well worth it to actually do that work and to seek out opportunities to do workshops, or if you have access or have someone that you admire, to seek contact with them and speak to them, find out if they can actually give you any tips about writing. Even a bit of encouragement sometimes is very useful, but that the writing is necessary, that you have to figure out what you want to say and to begin to say that, and to also read. That is core, like reading and writing. So reading whatever genre you're interested in, and also to read widely and to seek out opportunities to, yes, publish in journals, because before that first book comes out, you're going to want to have your work published in journals and magazines, and that's going to be important for the process, and seeking out any learning opportunities that you can find, and that's going to be important for your journey as well.
That's really good advice. I mean, it's writing first of all, right? I mean, you got to get down and just put pen to paper and see where that pen goes to, and where your thoughts lead to, and then the reading aspect of it as well, and then the connections. So
and seeing what you can learn about that craft, developing that craft.
No, it's all very good advice and very important. Well, that's all we have time for here today. Yashika, I want to thank you so much for joining us and telling us your story. An incredible adventure that continues,
Yes.
and I'm sure many great things to come.
Thank you so much for having me, and for this facility, for having this in place.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure. It really is. And thank you to our viewers on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter for joining us today on our Star Spangled Sit-Down. I just want to say, until next time, stay safe and stay informed. Thank you.